Hello, YouTube viewers, and thank you for tuning in today to episode 8. Today, for episode 8, since we've learned a lot of the basics, we want to go ahead and demonstrate how we can put these to practice on mock up scenarios, I guess I'll call them. So, from here on out, that's what I'm going to do. And each of these scenarios that I am going to create, they're going to introduce either a new topic that we're going to cover in Java and just see how we would use it in a day to day. So what I'm doing today, we're gonna go ahead and have Bacon County has asked us to set up a speed trap around the city in the areas listed below. So what we're tasked to do is to create an application that will tell us if the person's speeding based on their area, based and from that we're going to calculate the fines as well. So for example, I have here toll roads. So if the person's doing over 46 miles per hour over the speed limit in a toll road, they're going to be assessed a fine. So that's basically how we're going to go today. And some of the topics we're going to cover in today's lesson is going to be arrays, random number, which we discussed before, but we're going to review that again, private method, static final, which is a constant, and then we're going to talk about getters and setters. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this discussion. And what I'm going to do differently today is I already went through and wrote the code, and I'm just going to go ahead and review step by step of what I was thinking. Okay. So the first thing we have here, I've set up 4 different arrays right here. Again, before that, let me start off with this. So we create our public class, and you can name it whatever you want. I named it radar gun. And then I had to import 2 libraries, which we'll discuss when we get there, of what I use these imports for. But again, I have set up 4 different arrays, and I used a private static double since I'm going to be referring to these in my main method. I just threw in the static for everything, but you don't have to throw in the static. Just know you're going to have to create an object. So the first array here is the toll radar fine. So each of these arrays are holding the amount of fine that's going to be assessed depending on how fast they're going. If we look again at our requirements, we see here that each location has 3 different levels of fine. So you have one where if it's 25 to 35, it's 6.25. And each of these are 3 different amounts. So that's what I had. These arrays hold 3 different values. With arrays, down below we'll show you how to refer them, but this array, the size of it is 3. So it has 1, 2, 3. It's just like the same way as if you just do a regular double. You wouldn't have to use any single quotes or double quotes, anything like that. You just put the number in and then you store it. So these 3 numbers are stored in this array, and later on I'll show you how to reference that array, how to call that number. So each of these we can call them individually, and I'll show you that below. Okay, so we got all 4 arrays set up. One for toll road, one for highway fine, one for local road fine, one for neighborhood fine. And these are going to help us again calculate how much the penalty will be. Then we have our other variable, which is driver speed. This is not, I haven't initialized this because this is going to be a random number is going to be generated to assign it to the driver speed. So again, all these are private because I don't want anybody outside of this class. I don't want anything else outside of this class to reference these variables. So we go down some more, and we have another variable, which is a string, police location. So this variable will be used to store the police officer's location. Either it could be the toll road, highway, local road, or neighborhood. And here's my 5th array, which is officer's location list. So I have 4 different locations they could be: local road, neighborhood, highway, toll road. And the reason why I did it this way is because I'm using these inputs to validate part of my calculation. And then this is where we're talking about constants. If you notice, I capitalized all these variables, these 4 variables right here, because basically with a constant, what's going to happen, it's never going to change throughout your code. So I know for the toll road, the speed limit will always be 80. So I went ahead and did private static final. And again, you don't have to put the static. I just did that because I'm using the main method, and I don't want to create an object. So all 4 of these are finals. So these values will not change. I can be down here, all the way down here. It's not going to change. These values are going to remain the same. So that's what basically when we refer to a constant, that's what it means. So toll road is the speed limit is going to be 80. Highway 65. Local road 40. Neighborhood speed limit is always going to be 15. And right here, I use this to later on, you'll see what I use here is to display the speed limit at the end result. And here's another one right here, another variable. This is driver over limit. And none of these, most of these are not initialized. Only these four here are initialized. These are right up here, they're initialized. But after that, most of them are initialized. Like I have the speed limit one, that's not initialized. Driver over limit, that one as well is not initialized. Okay, so we have the fine amount, which I'm going to use this variable to calculate the amount that the driver is going to be fined is going to be stored in this variable. So fine amount, so that's another variable. Again, these, if you notice, all these are private and they're all static. So we move on here. I have a boolean here. Basically, I'm going to use this boolean to determine if the prompt, what basically at the end result, I'm going to use this to validate if the driver should go to prison or not, go to jail or not, depending on how fast they're going. Because again, if we go back to our I would say guidelines that we have, only 3 locations required if they're going an excessive amount of speed that they have to go to jail. But toll road, the police officers are very lenient there, so you just get a fine. But if you're speeding on a highway, local roads, neighborhood, over 26, 36 miles per hour, you're gonna go to jail. Okay, and again, these are just I just made up this scenario. This is not a real life scenario. Just again, I want to show you like how we would use what we've learned so far in real life. Okay, so that's the boolean, and I went ahead and initialized the boolean and I set it to false. So the first, again, one thing about Java that I really enjoy is if you notice, you don't see my main method here yet. My main method is the last one. All these code can be in whatever order. They're not going to be these whatever codes in here and here is not going to be ran until I reference it in the main method. Or what I did, I'll show you later. I called this method right here first. That's the first method I called, and this method is going to call another method. So that's one thing I'll show you later. But again, if you look at my main method, I tried to keep it as clean as I possibly can so it's easy to trace back what I'm doing. So I'm gonna start from the main method and just step through step by step of which code is gonna run after one. So in my main method, first thing I did is I want to find out the location of the officer's trap, the speed trap. So I referenced this method right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and expand this method. If you see this plus sign, if you're using Eclipse, you'll have this plus sign. You can close or open these codes. It makes it easier to read and go exactly where you want to. Okay. So here, you see this right here. I have this JOption pane show input dialog null. That's what I use this import for. Let me scroll back up. So I can basically what this is going to do is pop up a GUI, and that GUI, that little pop-up box, let me call it that. The pop-up box will display a message. So that's why I have to import this Java Swing JOption pane. So if we look at here, so I have JOption pane, and you have several different options. Show input dialog. So basically, I want to get some kind of feedback from the user. Okay, so that's why I use this one. So my question is, what is your current location? Toll road, highway, local road, neighborhood. Okay, and then after that, I have my little comma. That's the end of that statement. So now the next section of this code is the title of this pop-up that's going to display. So you're going to see when this pop-up display is going to say speed trap location, and then it's a question. And basically, what's going to happen is whatever the user inputs is going to be saved in the police location. Now, one thing is I kind of want to let me show you this. Well, let me finish this first. One thing I wanted to do is If the person enters local road all caps, I want it to make up for that. So whatever they input, I'm going to go ahead and drop the caps on their input. So if you put capital L local space capital R road, once when the system receives it right here, it's going to drop the cases on all those inputs. Okay, and it's going to assign the police location. So from there, what I did, you notice I called three more methods. So now that I have the location, I want to find the driver's speed. So we go up to this method. Let me close this for now. So again, how we use the random number. So I did random R equals new random. And then with the R, I did next int. So you never know what kind of car the person is driving. If they're driving my dream car, a Hellcat, want to be prepared for them. So I have a max speed of 190. So from 1 to 190, we're going to be able to read them on the radar. So basically what's going to happen is this random number that's going to be produced is going to be between 1 and 190. And we're going to assign that to driver speed. And then that's it. But if you go back here where I was at, the location of the trap, that takes care of one method, but I called another one, which is right here, set over limit amount. So now that I have the driver speed, I wanted to go ahead and find out where they're at and do my calculations. This is where I'm going to determine how much are they exceeding the speed limit. So right here, I have a case statement. So I get the police location, and if it's toll road, I want to do driver over limit equals driver speed, which is produced by the random number, minus the toll road speed limit, which was the constant that we set up right here. So this is where I'm using these right here. So I already have that number predefined right here up here. So if it's the toll road, it's 80. If it's the highway, it's 65, excuse me. Local road, 40. And it continues that way. And then if for whatever reason the location that was entered is an invalid location, it's not one of these locations. Let me show you up here where I reference this again right here. If it's not any of these locations, it's going to prompt it again to be like, hey, put in the right location, because it's not. So that's why I have this default right here. So if I don't have any of these inputs, then this is going to pop up again. It's going to come down here. It's basically like a loop. It's going to be like keep asking until you enter one of these in, one of these options. Okay, so once when that's done, it's time to set the fine amount, because now we have the driver's location, we have how much they're going over the speed limit, we have their speed. So what we're going to do is set fines. So let me shut this down right here and come up here to the set fines method, expand that. So again, oh sorry, I did this wrong one. Where's my set fines method? Let me highlight this, and you notice when I double click this, it highlights everywhere it's located in my code, so it makes it easy to find. So I'm going to expand this, and here we have an if statement, and we have, when you again remember when you see these two and percents, that means so this condition and this condition, so both conditions have to be that. If they're not, then we don't get our answer. We go on to the next if statement. So right here I say if the driver is over the limit, it's greater than 14, because again, this is the local speed limit equals local road speed limit. So let's start off right here. Remember how I told you we were gonna, I skipped this part, sorry about that. Remember how I said we can refer back to the array? This is how we do it. Now arrays, whenever you start making an array, it always starts at 0. So my array has 3 values. So it's 0, 1, 2. And the reason why I do that is because it's indexing. So this position right here is 0. This position right here is 1. This position right here is 2. This one's 3. But if you look, there's 4 different values in here. But just always remember that if you want the first value in an array, you have to start with 0. So let's get back down here. So I say if police location equals, when we're comparing strings, you have to use the equal. You can't have it like this, because if you have, let me see here, location equals, let's say toll road, what you're doing here is you're assigning it toll road, so that's why you can't have it like that. And with numbers, I know you can use a 2 equal sign, you can't do that with the strings. Like this, you cannot do that. So you have to use the dot equals when you're comparing strings. So okay, so we compare the strings. We said, okay, if officer's location is the first one. So let's go see what's in here. Officer's location, local road. So in local roads, if the speed limit is between 15 and 20, the 21 is not included, the 14 is not included. Since it's greater than, it's not greater than equal to, it's greater than. That's one thing when you're coding you definitely want to watch out for, is your greater than signs. So I go through, I have right here the first level. If it's greater than this, then the fine amount is local road fine. Again, you see how I'm referring to the 0 for the first position in the array. And again, that's due to me, arrays are indexed. And then you go to the next one, and then you go to this one. And then since we're on a local road, this one's comparing the local road, this is where I change is going to jail. I set it equal to true, and here's the fine amount that I'm calculating. And let's say, for instance, this we have a excellent driver here. You want to just set the fine amount to 0, and since this didn't occur, it's going to jail is still false. So all we do is set the fine amount. And one thing here before I continue, if you see here public static double, this is how you can use getters and setters, because what I'm doing here is I'm returning a double. And if we go all the way at the bottom, I'm returning fine amounts. Okay, and you don't have to do it this way. You can do a getter. So basically, this would be a setter. This is setting the fine amount. A getter would be something where you get the value for something. But since I'm going to do it all in one method down here. That's all I did. I just returned the fine amount. So that'll cover what a getter and setter is. So this right here, this fine amount, if you look here, it's not initialized. But I do initialize it down here and I return that value, which is down here. Okay. So again, if I go through this, I compare the other locations, location number 4, which I'm referring here as 3 because of the index. So it starts at 0, but it's really the 4th spot, which would be toll roads. So again, same if statement, do the calculations if it's over 24, if it's less than 36, and continue. And if you notice here, there's no options to send them to jail. And one thing I just realized I forgot here, if you notice in all my else statements, I don't set the fine amount to 0. So I'm gonna have to copy this. Again, you see, when you go through the code, you'll notice little mistakes you make here. It's a quick fix. So all I have to do is set the fine amount to 0 for all the other locations if they're not if they're not going over the speed limit. Okay, so we return the fine amount. So if you notice here, so we're done with this method. This method is done. Come up here. This method is complete. All the code have ran through it. Now we have our last method, which is called the findings. And before I go on to the findings, let me go up here. Remember I imported this one as well. This was what we used to set the random number to get the speed. Where were you? Right here. So you see how I did this random? I need to import util.random in order to do the random calculation, which I did right here. So let's get back to findings. So again, I highlight this and it displays where that method is. So again, this method is not returning anything. And basically what I did, this JOption pane show message dialog. And again, remember the first one was input. Let me go there. Where was it? Driver's location trap. If you notice here, this was JOption pane show input dialog. But this time I have show message dialog. So I'm not taking any kind of input. I'm just displaying information. And one thing about this, if you notice, like I have all these plus signs, I'm concatenating the string. And so it can be readable, so you don't have to scroll all the way over here. I add a plus sign and brought it down to the next line. So if you go through this JOption pane message, it's like the driver was doing this amount of speed, which is blank over the speed limit. And then I list out the location, I list out the speed, I list out the fine amount, radar result. And if you look at here, remember how I compared, like how I was setting is going to jail true or false? Like right here, it starts off at false. But if it's in the neighborhood and it's going over 21 miles per hour, they're gonna go to jail, and it'll set going to jail to true, which would be this portion right here. And you see what would happen? It says right here the driver needs to be arrested. But up here, I don't have that. That's the only difference between this portion and that portion. And it's all based off of is going to jail, the Boolean. And remember how string we had dot equals? For Boolean, you can just do the two equal signs to compare it. Okay. Now, if you want to set it to false, use one equal sign. But since we want to compare and determine if it's false or if it's true, we use two equal signs. Okay, now it's time to go ahead and run this code. So I'm gonna hit run. And at first what I'm gonna do some, just to show you some of the things I talked about. Remember when I said right here, what is your current location? So the officer would be asked what is their current location. So if I say home, watch what's gonna happen. It asked me again because I did not enter one of the four options I had. So I'm gonna enter all caps, local road. Watch as we go on. Remember, I entered all caps. Click OK. Now all the calculations done. It checks that the driver. Well, this person is speeding 161 miles per hour, which is 121 miles per hour over the limit. The location. You see how the location has local roads because the caps was dropped. The speed limit is 40 miles per hour, so I'm exceeding the speed limit by 121. The fine amount is $1,574.58, and then unfortunately, the driver has to go to jail. He has to be arrested because of the speed he's doing. Let's click OK. Let's run it one more time. This time we're going to pick the toll road. And look, this time I put it all in lower caps. Okay, the driver was doing 133 miles. These people today are speeding. So 133 miles per hour, which is 53 miles over the limit. Location, toll road. Speed limit, 80 miles per hour. Fine amount, 1167 and 74 cents. So we're just a basic demonstration. We were able to build a radar detector that determines at what location the officer is at. It determines the fine amount, and so determines if the person should go to jail or not. So definitely, hopefully, you guys enjoy this lesson. Please hit the like button and subscribe. And we'll see you next lesson. And I will include this source code in the description, or if it's not there, just go ahead and email and well, it will be there. I will put it there. So appreciate your time and everybody have a good day.